Hey, there we go. Welcome back to the live stream. My name is Jeff Fritz. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it might be where you are. Thank you for tuning in. Today is July 21st, 2019, and we're going to write a little bit of code today. How's it going there, chat room? Let me turn back. My microphone's just a little hot there. How's it going? Good morning. Hey, Landon, good to see you. Sean's here. Hello, hello. Oh my gosh, I was up so late last night watching the tweets roll in from the big Marvel Phase 4 announcement at Comic-Con. Oh my gosh, 10 projects over the next 2 years. 5 of those are series that are going to be on Disney's Disney Plus pay service. It's getting me more and more convinced that I'm going to end up needing to pay for that. Oh boy, that I'm looking forward to that. So that's why I'm wearing my Doctor Strange hat today. There he is. Because there is a Doctor Strange 2 movie announced there. Hey, Stelzy, great to see you. No Fantastic Four and Blade are in the works, but Thor 4 was announced with a date in 2021. So yeah, they're announced, they're in planning, no dates, nothing concrete yet. Oh my gosh. So exciting things coming in the world of Marvel. Wow. Let me get some music playing here in the background, and then I've got some things I want to talk to you about. Some announcements, some a little bit of planning, and something that I owe you that I want to make sure that you're aware of. So today, let me get playing in the background. This is Green. There we go. This is once again another one of the songs from Music to Code by our friend Mr. Carl Franklin. Of course, this music is scientifically designed. It's engineered to get you in the groove, to get you in the flow, so that whatever task it is that you're working on, all the other things that you're worried about just kind of fade away, and you can get hyper-focused on whatever that task is. Whether it's coding, doing your homework, chores around the house, lawn work. Check it out. Music to Code by mtcb.pwop.com. My headphones sound very quiet today for some reason. I think it's just me. All right. So, hey, Copper Beardy. I didn't make it over to the post office yesterday. I need to do that tomorrow morning. I've got a bunch of sticker packs that we're going to send out to folks that won giveaways during our last 2 workshops that we did together here on stream. And speaking of the last 2 workshops that we did on stream, I'm going to push the button right now. Where is it? There it is. I edited down. It took me the better part of 12 hours of rendering, maybe closer to 16, to edit and render. I pulled out all the extra nonsense that you don't need in order to learn about ASP.NET, and I have for you now, I need to finish putting that title card on this, but the ASP.NET Core 2.2 workshop is now live on YouTube. Let me give you the link. It is right there is the ASP.NET Core Workshop. So you can check that out. You can download that, and since it's now made public, we should see Stream Elements is going to mention that it should get tweeted, and then Stream Elements pick up on that in just a second here. I have everything wired, so automatically things happen. Video goes live on YouTube, gets picked up by IFTT, and it gets tweeted, and all these things kind of trickle down and happen. It's an interesting, very Rube Goldbergian setup. It's not getting tweeted. I don't know why it wasn't tweeted. Where did it go? Let me just check IFTT real quick. So, oh yeah, in the Blazor workshop, thank you for reminding me, Tigeron, and we'll be sure to greet everybody here in the chat room in a second. That one I've downloaded, and now that we're done rendering and sending out the ASP.NET Core Workshop, The Blazor Workshop is on deck, and we're going to get that one shipped out here in the next day or so. It's just going to take a little bit to finish getting that pushed through here. I'm just checking my YouTube configuration here on IFTT. Check now. Applet checked. Yeah. Did it tweet it? There it is. All right, and there's the stream elements. Fantastic. Awesome. I was just impatient. It doesn't aggressively check like I thought it was. All right. Wow. How's it going there, chat room? Let me say hello to everybody. So, Sean's here. Lannon BR, Stelzy, Copperbeardy, Ancient Coder. Good to see you, Ancient Coder. Happy Sunday to you. Little Cold. Hello. Good afternoon, chat. Yes. Sourcegoot. Love seeing the AutoCAD emote there. Great to see you. Sourcegoot's another one of the live coders. Make sure you check out their channel here. On the live coders team, it's right below me, right about there. Hey, Brave Cobra, good to see you. Fian, hello. And Frackberg, Adam, good morning, good morning. Livecoders.dev, that's another great place that you can find it as well. All right, so we covered the YouTube video that's been launched. We covered, let's see. I'm woefully behind on having guests on stream. You're going to see that pick up aggressively here over the next few weeks. I've got a bunch of folks that I had standing invites out to. They said yes, and we just never locked down on a time. You're going to see a bunch more of those folks come through, and we're going to be working together both on projects, on teaching folks new skills, and talking about what it means to be a good developer in the ecosystem, some good practices. So I've got all of those things on tap. I need to actually get folks scheduled and locked in. And I think we've done a pretty good job with interviews when we do have folks join us. So that I'm recommitting to, and we're going to see that happening. Copperbeardy, yes, that's the next thing I want to make sure I talk about. So, you might have noticed I've got a decent voice for reading, decent voice for voiceovers. I don't know if you can tell. I get asked about this every now and again, and it's something that I've wanted to try to do. I even auditioned for Audible at one point. I sent them an audition tape. It was flat ignored, no response, and that's okay. They've got professional grade talent that they're working with. But I thought about reading a book, doing like a book club, book on tape type thing. What I here on Twitch, and I ran a poll. There's a poll you can find on my Twitter. Let me grab the tweet so I can share that with you. Here it is. Asking if folks would be interested if I read a book here on Twitch and then cross-posted it back over to YouTube. And the feedback that I got and the answer so far is roughly 50-50. It's actually like 29-34, and the rest are all just show me the answers. So what I'm thinking is I want to run a couple test streams, see how it goes, edit them down so that they're a bit more professionally produced with the sound. Maybe drop in some sound effects where appropriate, and have the videos available on YouTube, but more importantly, publish my first real podcast. MP3s available from a website that you can download and have a series of episodes that are me reading whatever book. Now, the question is, what kind of book do you read? The thing with reading books online is that's somebody else's copyright. If you read somebody else's book, you're using their copyright. So you can't use a book without it being licensed to you, but there are things such as public domain books. So I was looking at grabbing one of those, something maybe a little sci-fi, and read that here. Reading the C# internal source code, says Brave Cobra. No, not going to do that. But I thought, maybe we have a hour episode at a time, and I'll do maybe one or two of these. Read it live here on Twitch, turn off the sound for all the alarms. So the alerts would appear, these things, all the widgets and things would be here. You'd be able to see the text on screen, so you could read along with me if you'd like. And but the only sound that you would hear is my voice. And I would stop and reread things if I stumbled at all, so that I was effectively recording live on Twitch. So we're going to see how that works. We'll give that a test here over the next week or two. I'll figure out and schedule that. And yeah, so that's something that I want to do in the off hours in the evening, trying to diversify a little bit, get some more interesting content than just writing code here, right? A lot of folks are interested in this, but if we're going to expand the community, we need to bring in folks that are interested in some other things also. So I'd like to try a couple different things off of my normal schedule and see if we can get some folks interested in joining us, and maybe they even come over and watch some of the code streams. You'd listen to a podcast at any time, any day, says Ancient Coder. Yeah, that's the way I feel too. So, Source Code has listened to a couple books on YouTube, works pretty well. Podcast would be even better, right? Because then you can download to your phone, and it's just there. So I think there's opportunities. All right. So that's the second thing that I want to talk about. Yesterday I spent a little bit of time reviewing and grabbing some of the sound effects that people had recommended. And oh, did we have some sound effects recommended? And I grabbed them, edited them down. Did you know there are 13 mentions of Great Scott in Back to the Future? Ask me how I know. Oh my gosh, and yes, the attention, Scott, you know what? I don't have my attention scene on this. Hang on 1 second, don't do any more of those, because we've updated the Scott command. And it's amazing now. Go ahead, try it again. The entire trilogy, actually. So, there are plenty of opportunities there. See that it's now it's going to time me out on the Scott. Because there are a ton of them. You know what? I might have the timeout configuration on that wrong. It's supposed to wait, because I have it set up with a really long timeout. Because there are 10 Scotts that you can trigger now. 1 second. Let me just take a quick look. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna have to. Let me see. I can. Oh, I would have to restart it, and that's gonna knock it down and start it back up. Rats. Even for mods, yes. Even for me, look at it. It's not triggering it, right? That was so anticlimactic. But there's still the other. Are the other ones working?
Oh my!
That's working. It's ignoring it, is what it's doing. Don Quixote, you're listening to at the moment. It's 38 hours long. Oh my goodness.
And then?
There you go. 13 seems low, says Frackberg. No, I've found somebody who analyzed and brought them all out. And here's where they all are. Yeah. There's a lot of them. So, I'm not going to be able to edit that unless I rebuild the container. I mean, it's doable. I can do that real quick. But it's supposed to only be... Like, I opened up the Great Scott, the Scotts, and there's Scott, Dr. Scott, yeah. I'm going to set this back to 30 seconds and rebuild the container. That's what I'm going to do. Do that real quick here. And let me do that on screen so you can actually see what I'm doing here. There we go. This is in my Fritz Stream Tools project. Right, and what version do we have here? This is 1.14.7. Build 1.14.7. And we'll relaunch the bot, and it should come through a little bit faster. Config should reload from outside the container. Well, if I were to do that, I'm not sure it's going to reload, but we can give it a shot, because I don't think I did it with Yeah, let me just do the rebuild. I don't think it's going to reload from outside. Because I didn't do it with the option snapshots. Passing that around. So, and I certainly could mount, but I need to restart the application to get it to reload. So, but we'll get that running and it'll be available very soon. There's a ton of Scott sound effects in there. Right, I want to make sure this one was in it also.
Dr. Scott!
Yeah, Dr. Scott. So there's, yeah, you'll see. It's a lot of fun. Oh my gosh.
You're amazing. You figured this all out already.
I did. I figured this all out on my own and plugged it in here. It's it should be pretty good. So, let's see. What else is going on? I think we're all right. So let me restart the bot. Right. What do you mean? Oh no. And run. I should also have a command to reset cooldowns. Now you can run the Scott command. I'll give it a shot. Are you kidding? It still didn't play it. I had this playing earlier today. No, it's not going to play them. I have it with the same setup as the end thens. Literally, I did the same thing.
And then.
All right, we'll need to figure that out another time. I'm not gonna spend time fiddling with that today.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
I do have a chance against it, and then we'll do our editing, and I will.
Well, do your best.
I will do my best, Headley. See, look, all the sound effects are coming out now. See. So, I'll do some more tuning on that, and we'll get that working properly. I don't know why the Scots aren't working quite as well. I have it now tuned down to 30 seconds, so you should be able to. I don't know why it isn't finding the Scots. They're in there. All right. Something unexpected is going on with those. I have a feeling I just didn't package it properly. That's got to be it. All right. Let me get back and let's talk about our resource management application. Why am I getting double on that? It's like the first time I launch, I always get double entry on that. Thank you so much for the follow there, Marrakesh. I appreciate you joining us. I should mention, I'm going to commit to Wednesday mornings. We're going to be now live 5 days a week. So Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, you'll find me 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, 1400 UTC. For regular time when I'm at home, I will be on 4 days a week at that time. And Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, 2200 UTC, and I think it's 9 a.m. Australia Eastern time. So, investigating microservices with .NET further, says Brave Cobra. Someone wants you to do that on stream. Nice. Oh my. It's a great topic. It's something that I definitely think more folks should get into it, considering microservices. gRPC is now really a thing with ASP.NET Core 3. It's really good, so I definitely suggest you check that out. All right, I want to finish building and working on the report here, our manager's report, for our resource management application. Now, I've got a couple pull requests sitting out there. We'll get those pulled in just a minute. But I want to finish working through this part of the report so that it works, it's interactive, and we can get we'll have the features done for a minimum viable product. We can put some of the polish around it, around user interface and security, authorization, and authentication, and we can share it with the nonprofit organization. And when I say share it with them, I'm going to do an IRL stream. I'm going to go on site with them. We'll interview the folks that are going to be responsible for scheduling, show them what we've got, and talk about next steps, that next project, and actually getting into scheduling classes and managing notifications. So it's something that should be coming up here in the next 2 weeks, I think, based on how far along we are and how things are progressing. And that's another reason I want to do an extra stream here, is I want to make sure we get this stuff done. So that's going to be coming up. We're going to get to that, and I think we're going to start making the Fridays just longer streams in general, with a full workshop once a month. I've wanted to do a full workshop once a month, but I'm getting support now from my employer that this is really good, and this is something we want to do on a regular basis. So look for more details about more workshops coming up. I think there's an opportunity to go back and do the full day C# workshop again. There's going to be opportunities to be more productive with Visual Studio workshop. We've even had discussions about doing a Cloudnative workshop. So we'll see about that as well. Maybe the first interview would have been nice. Interviewing your customer for the first time and defining an MVP is a hard thing to do. Honestly, the first interview really happened more over email, so it wasn't exciting at all. So we'll get back to that. We will definitely make that a thing. So I'm going to write a little bit of code first here. I want to get this bit around calculating employee availability and building the data for this report. Talk about getting this working so that we can finish that user interface. So I'll get the data for, particularly we started on this bit right here, being able to look at our data for a weekly availability report. Being able to look at this at 3 different grains, whether it's every half hour, because that's about how long their normal classes are, every hour, there are some folks that have hour-long classes, or for the entire day, being able to look and see the availability for those folks. So I've got this unit test set up that exercises and makes sure that we're doing those calculations properly, and we'll get more about this and get this working here, and we'll take a look at our pull requests that help enhance and make these things better. Simon Jering, hey, how's it going, Simon? Asks about a Docker for C#.NET Devs workshop. That's what would be core to that Cloudnative workshop. So, yes. All right. So I have some unit tests that are being run here, and you can see in my test explorer, I have a bunch of unit tests defined, and if I have them all run, right? And the unit tests, really, this is code that executes code. And we should see it execute and make sure that things are running well. Art for the Apocalypse, good morning. I am doing quite well. Thanks for the Imperial Hey emote there. Our friend Imperial Girl, she's now just Imperial, had a rough past couple weeks. More power to her. She's a great leader for the creative communities here on Twitch, and she had a personal tragedy happen in there, and a couple other. She's been quite public about it, but it's not my place to discuss. But it's been a hard week or two here. Sleeping's been quite well. Brave Cobra. I've been these. There we go. There's my test. I now have a CPAP machine that I sleep with, and it's been helping significantly. So you can see I have these tests that aren't quite running properly right now, and this is when we change the time units. And I want this report, I want you to be able to drill down. I want you to be able to look at the report at the day and see, here's how many folks are available to work on this day, and be able to drill down and get more granular. Well, here's how many on each hour. Here's how many on each half hour are available to work. So we're going to take a look at that. Copper Beardy says, I'm terrible for test-driven development. Often forget to do tests first. I'm not great at test-driven development, but when I see something that I know is business logic that's going to involve a lot of it's going to involve a lot of logic management, that's when I want to write the test first. Yes, Stelzy says, only put an assert true in there and your tests will always be green. No. Oh, come on now. Could we get a test-driven development workshop? Asks Sean. That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea, and I know a couple folks that are really good with test-driven development that we could have join us and walk through some of the practices, some of the techniques to test-driven development. Absolutely. I think that makes perfect sense to do. Simon says, more important to have automated tests by the time... Simon says, man, listen to that. Simon says, and it's going to make it better, make it stronger, more important. To have automated it's more important to have automated tests by the time you ship. The first bit is nice, but not imperative. Simon, I think that we can go a little bit further with that. I think it's important to have tests when you have business logic that is critical to your application. Your normal CRUD, your normal interactions with whatever data store, you don't really need to test that stuff. It's nice to test it. It's in all the demos. You don't really need to test that. This is business logic that we need to test. We need to make sure, because this is critical to the operation and the interaction with our customers. This is valuable to test. When I do my refactoring through this, I want to make sure that this, where I'm calculating folks' availability, that this functions properly, because this is what folks depend on. Saving data to the database, you're going to get that working and it's not going to change. It's nice to test it, but that's not critical. It's important to have the tests around this business critical logic as early as possible so that you have the continuous integration and as you're working on the code around it, you don't break it. So I think that's important as well. Ancient Coder asks, any plans for having Julie Lerman back? Julie's a great friend, and I'll write down that there's some interest in having her back as a guest. We'll see. I don't know. We'll be sure to reach out to her. She is the queen of Entity Framework, yes, and there's a lot changing with Entity Framework right now. Maybe. I'm not going to commit to that, but it's always nice to reach out to her. We've already had her on twice. There's some other folks that I have that I've talked to that are interested in joining us, including Phil Hack. I've asked to join us and do a intro to Git. He just finished a book about a month or two ago, getting introduced to Git for beginners and GitHub for folks that are new to doing source control. And I think that source control is one of those topics that works really well for folks who even don't do technology. So to do that discussion with Phil, I think would be extremely valuable, even outside of the .NET and the coding communities. I've talked to Rob Connery about how to learn, how to teach. That would be a interesting topic that he's and that was back at MVP Summit. I talked to him. To have him on would be a lot of fun. Beth Massey is my partner in crime for event planning, and I'm not sure what we'd get done with Beth because we would just have too much fun together. But some very interesting topics. I want to make sure that we get a little bit more well-rounded and outside of just writing .NET code as well. And with C# 8 coming up, we're always interested in having the folks like Kathleen Dollard, Bill Wagner, Mads Torgerson joining us. Some of those folks that are leading and doing that. My Stream Elements bot is still up with the materials for the workshop from Friday. Let me turn that off. So some very interesting topics, yes. I've also got some folks outside of Microsoft that I want to make sure we bring in as well. Iris Klassen, we've had on before, and we talked about working through algorithms. She was actually our first guest on stream, so definitely interested in having her on. A CSS Design Workshop. That's not a bad idea either. I like that idea. There's definitely some folks that I can reach out to on that. We can have in here. Tracy Lee I spoke to at, what was the last event? At Dev Intersection in Orlando. We're looking at having her on at some point and talk about Vue, talk about some of the, and Jen Looper as well. Have her join us at some point. So these are all folks that I have some interest in inviting on stream. No pressure on them whatsoever, but it'd be fun to have them on and show us some of the things that they build and work with. So so Brave Cobra says terrible at front end development, doing user interface development, and that's where I think if we did a full day workshop on CSS and user interface development, it would be a lot of fun. Something that all of us would learn from, even me. I've even, you know who I've really wanted to have on stream for a long time, and we just have a hard time connecting, and it's a time zone thing as well. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name. They do the Coding After Work podcast, and I've been on their podcast. Ah, come on, open. Jessica Engstrom and Jimmy Engstrom. I would love to have them on and teach us a little bit about user interface and programming with some of the really cool advanced user interfaces that they work with. All right, enough about some of those things. That's going to be coming up. I'm really looking forward to it. Reaching out and getting folks back on the schedule here, because I think it's important that we have some folks come in and teach us some stuff that we're not familiar with, instead of just doing work. So let's look at this test that we've built here. So this test should report at the grain requested when we say calculate the total availability for all the employees. So we're going to calculate that, and I specified, give me a week's worth of time. Give me a week's worth of time, and I'm going to look at 8 hours here. Okay? So it's actually 9 hours. Right? 7 days, 9 hours. And I should see 63 results when I pass in hourly. So that's what we're seeing here. It's actually passing in the time unit here. We don't want to assert 63 times. Right? It's going to be 63 if it's hourly. We need to actually dial it up and back a little bit based on what the grain is, and recalculate that appropriately. Now, there was a really interesting idea. Let's change this. So if half hour is our smallest unit, and there's 1 half hour, then there's 2 time units is an hour. That means there's 48 time units in a day, which means that I can take this, and instead of it being 63, right, our base time unit is going to be 63 times 2, that's 126. So if we say this should be 126 times the integer representation of our time unit, right? So when it's a half hour, 126 times 1 makes sense. That actually should be a divide, shouldn't it? Shouldn't it? Do I have that right? I think that's right. No, doesn't like that. Oh, there we go. Run. Run. What if it's 0? What do you mean, what if it's 0? No, there is never a 0. Jan Lyons, hello, welcome. Yes, I do see that, Simon. We're going to get back to that. Why isn't it running? So, hang on. If the... Right, okay. What do you mean hour, day? Oh, because I still have that one in there. Get rid of that. Rerun these. Yeah, thank you, Sharp Cause. Got to get rid of that first assert there, that little gatekeeper assert. So now this... Well, that's not right. Expected 2. Expected 126. I shouldn't get 2. Right? No. Hang on. When it's a day, green, we're going to get 63 of these. When it's every half hour, we're going to get twice as many of those because there's 2 hours a day, so that's, right, 18 times 7, right, is 126, right? 18 times 7? Do I have that right? Oh, that's the conversion calculator. Right, 18 times 7, 126. But 126 divided by... Oh, it's not 48. Oh, no. It's going to be the number of hours, the number of half hours per day, not 48. Oh, no. Rats. So I can't just make it that flat, right? The number of days is wrong. The number for, right, that calculation. So what I need to do, right, is I need to have the number of those units per day. Ugh. Okay, hang on. See, I'm going to end up doing the calculation right here. You know? Which feels stupid. Come here. You know? So there's 1 unit per half hour, so it's 126 when it's a half hour. Right? I could end up doing it like this. Time unit equals half hour, then it's 126. When time unit equals hour, see, now I've got this ugly value. No, I don't want that. I don't want that at all. It's ugly. Expected value equals right, do it here so that you can actually see it. Time unit equals, when it's an hour, then it should be 63. Otherwise, it's 7 days. Like that. So now I should be able to rerun this. This is the scheduling app. Yes, Andre. Why not a dictionary? Sure, I could do it that way. Expected results equals, that's not bad at all, right? Time unit, availability time unit, int a. New dictionary. Put that there. Change that to a comma. Put one of these in front. One of those over there. What was it? 63. Day 7. Right. And now I can say assert equal expected results time unit. And that should work. Well, that'll work to run the test. I need to actually go through and do the calculation. What? Swag Kermit, welcome. I've got 2 new statements here. Get rid of that. I'm purposely not running live unit tests today, just because I want you to see how it works when you use the Test Explorer here live in Visual Studio, because this is available for every version of Visual Studio. So you, where is it? There's a setting here that you can turn on so that it'll run after each build. I don't want a playlist file. That's fine. Where is it? Yeah, I don't see it here. So the day, it needs to be, right? We need to account for, it's not a full day. It's not 24 hours in a day. It's only 9 hours in a day. And that's going to change. Who wouldn't live testing when you can do .NET Watch Test? I kind of agree with you on that. So these are properly coming back wrong because it's not accounting for, it's not actually doing the calculations there. Oh, I told it to format and it didn't actually format those and make them look nice. There, that's better. All right, so now let's actually go over and check the calculate availability and make sure that it's right. So here it's doing the working time slots, looking at the date counter, and then here's where it goes through for each hour. And it looks here on add hours. So I need to have a time span that I'm going to look at and count forward on each one of those. Tick, tick, tick. Hey, Daniel. Good to see you. We're going to look at pull requests here in just a minute. I wanted to finish this calculation first. So I think when I want to be able to change that green and I want to be able to specify different times, I think the end hour, right? So this is going to go through and it's going to step by doing hour counter plus plus. And that's how it decides how many hours to add here. I think we can change our units here, right? A for loop doesn't always have to be with integers, does it? I think we can do this with time spans. And we'll be able to step our grain appropriately. Rubber ducking at us, says Jan Lyons. A little bit. A little bit, certainly. Hello. How's it going? I'm not going to pronounce your name there. I want to stay family friendly here. But good to see you, Huck. Let's see here. So I can make this, instead of being integers here, I can have this be using time spans to decide how to step, and I can use those. set that time span appropriately using the enum with custom values. I think you're onto something, Simon. So if instead of having an hour counter here, right? If we just make this let's call this a time counter. Right? And that's a time of day, and a time of day is a time span. No, it's a date time. Is it a daytime offset? Right? Time of day is a time span. But I need a start time and an end time that we're looking at here. And it's add time counter +1. That's not going to work. We're going to need a custom time span that says this is how wide each one of those units is. Yeah, Simon, I think you're right. So the value of each enum element is the duration of the increment. Yes. Yes. So let's set up a private static read-only dictionary that has our availability time unit and a time span that is the size of that unit. That doesn't sound right. And we'll call this time unit. Oh boy. Time unit lookup to do that conversion. So when the availability time unit is a half an hour, right, that is a time span from minutes 30. When the availability time unit is an hour, that's a time span from hours 1. When the availability time unit is a day, this is where I think I can say time span from days 1. I think I'm okay with that. Don't need dictionary, use add minutes and take the int value of the enum, the amount to add. Oh, I see what you're saying. Let's do that. Okay, I see where you're going. So let me go back down here. Right. Thank you, Huck. I appreciate you joining us.
Just subscribed.
Thank you very much. And we'll make a donation to Coderdojo, like we are with all of our donations this quarter. July through September, we're going to make donations to Coderdojo. They're building facilities, they're training trainers to bring technology learning to folks all over the world. And we're going to support them with our subscriptions, with our cheers this quarter. Thanks so much, Huck. I appreciate the very kind subscription. So if I change these so they are the number of minutes, the number of minutes in a day is 24 times 60. Where's that calculator? I forget that off the top of my head. Yeah, 1440, that's what it was. So if I make those the enum values, right, and it doesn't matter what those values are, we're just passing, it doesn't matter what they are to the code, we're just passing them around. But we're going to work through this. The limited workday only comes in when we look at the number of units, the number of time slots that are coming out. When we're calculating availability, to look at is somebody available at all during this time, I think we're okay to use that time span. So, okay. Let's call this time. Let's call this time step. Sure. It's going to be a time span from minutes as as Simon was suggesting. I like this. This approach now feels really good, right? what did I call the input variable? It is grain. So we're going to take the int, right? So we're going to take that time unit availability, cast it to an integer, and that number of minutes is how we're going to measure the time step. Yeah. But if it's the day time step, see, okay, so here's where I think maybe you're onto something. The day time step, we actually want to turn around and make that the number of hours. Take the number of hours and multiply it out. Yeah. So let's just put a quick if here. If green equals day, then we're going to set time step equal to time span from hours, end hour minus start hour. So that way, this is appropriately, right, 8 hours, 9 hours long, however long it is. So now you only have one input 2 and don't need the dictionary. Yep, dictionary's gone. So now, I like that. So now time counter isn't just a start hour, right? We're not going to start at start hour. We actually want to start at we want to turn this into time span from hours, start hour, so that it starts at that beginning of the day. Time counter is less than... Oh my gosh. Thank you for the follow. Is that Save Us D2J? Thanks so much. I appreciate you joining us. And we're still pushing towards our follower goal, 8,000 followers. If we get to 8,000 followers before September 15th, I will dye my beard rainbow for both .NET Conf and TwitchCon. Cyber3X, I appreciate the follow as well. And we crossed the 7,000 follower metric. And then maybe we'll do something for Ignite in November. And wait till you hear what I have planned for Ignite. I'm waiting for final approval from my colleagues that I've been planning and submitting to. It's going to be a crazy, crazy week in Florida. So when I get that approved, I will share the information with everybody. And you're gonna blow your stack when you hear what I have planned, because it's going to be something like you've never seen before. If I get it to land the way that I want it to. Okay, so if this is now a time span, so now we need to say when time counter is less than time span from hours, right? Yeah, time span from hours and hour. And we're not going to say time counter plus plus. No, we're going to say time counter add, and we're going to add our time step, which is now a time span, right? So now our time counter is that hour of day, right? So it'll start off 8 a.m. and then we're going to, I did end then. We're going to add 30 minutes because the grain is a half hour and it's 30 minutes. We set the value for that to 30s. We'll evaluate, and that time counter, we'll just turn this around and say add time counter. And we'll make the end date time is going to be, add. So the time counter will be, we'll add the time counter and add the time step, right? Add time step. So let's make sure I have this right. So time step will be for an hour, it'll be 60 minutes here. So the time counter will be 8 a.m. And we'll have 8 a.m. here, add 8 a.m. and then add 1 hour. So it'll go to 9 a.m. When we step, it'll go, time counter will step up a time step, 60 minutes. So now it's 9 a.m. And that's still time span from hours. That's still less than 5 p.m. and it works. When we do half hour, that works as well. When we do the day, because the day will be, right, this will be 9 hours. So time counter will be, it'll only go through this once. Because it'll be, yeah, I think that'll work. Let's, I can actually just run the test and see if I got it right? And, right, we'll know if these are correct. And hopefully it's right up there. Or maybe I did it wrong. No! This isn't actually setting the value back. I'm not actually... You're right, I can take this and make it start date time. And, well, I can't reference that. I need to... Yeah. I need to have the whole thing there because these are... But this needs to be time counter equals. Otherwise it never finishes because it never steps. Can probably make it a bit more readable, functional, fluent with some more extension methods and range types, but that's the general idea. Yes. And all the tests pass. Absolutely. So now I can step this through at different grains. Fantastic. Yes, Rockle Best. It works. It works. Hang on, I've got a sound effect for that.
It's alive!
Oh my.
It works. It's alive. All right. So that test is working. Let me commit that change and we'll take a look at our pull requests and start merging these in. So this is under here. There we go. Finished resource availability. And this isn't even doing the complete, right? Resource availability check test. I'm not even sure that the test is completely working properly. There's some other things that I want to check in there to make sure that they behave properly. Like the day check. I'm just checking to see if you're marked available in there. If you're marked unavailable, right, there's some more complex things in there that we need to do. But that initial simple check works. We got it. There's a lot more complex business logic in there that we need to stretch yet, but we'll figure it out. We will get back into there. Here we are. So we have a couple pull requests. One from Simon and a couple from Marble Kirby here that we're going to take a look at. So, is this the moment to refactor in TDD? Oh, very funny. Very, very funny. Let's see here. Do I drink back? I drink G Fuel. There it is. And it's been good to me. I enjoy it. Okay, so we've got some validation. We've got some other pull requests here. I'm going to bring these in and start wiring up the user interface. And we'll go back and do a little bit more in-depth testing and make sure that it's calculating properly when we look at those larger time spans like day. I think the day time span is one that we particularly need to look at because somebody's availability for the whole day is a little bit different. We need to make sure that works properly. So let's take a look. This is domain object validation. So Marble Kirby's been working on this. Validation rules for the domain objects. So I provided a list of rules. There's 4 commits here that are coming in. Let's take a look. So added the Cron Espresso package. Okay. I need to... Where is it? I want to turn off... Here. Hide the white space changes. Don't need to see those. All right. So in the person, we've got a validate method, and we're just adding validation results here for is string is null or empty. Okay. That's fine. Okay. And person type, I don't see what changed there. Person type, yep. Cannot be null. Recurring schedule, and here we're doing validate cron. Make sure it's a valid cron pattern. Good. That makes sense. I understand and appreciate bringing in cron espresso for that, right? The challenge here is we want to make sure that when we define a recurring schedule, I've got bowling on Wednesday nights, that type of thing, that for our code, the machine can iterate through and spit out and work with cron patterns very quickly and easily. But people can't figure these out very easily, and we want to put a nice user interface in front of folks. Certainly, non-technical folks don't understand a cron pattern. So let's put this out here. Why is validate a method? This is actually a validation pattern that you can use with validators inside of Blazor and other and model binding, and it will go through and execute this validation method. Visual Studio is reformatting a lot of stuff. A bot holding a tick sign. Oh, ancient coder. That's a neat idea for an emote. So holding up a sign that has a red X in it or a green check. That's not bad. Okay. I think the editor config in the solution is dodgy. Really? Okay. It should be in the domain objects if we're using DDD. We are not using DDD. I am not going to get swamped with DDD. We did that with CoreWiki, and it made it incredibly difficult for new folks to join the project. I am not going to use DDD in this project. Sorry. It made it extremely unwelcoming for new folks to get familiar with the project. Because the amount of tribal knowledge that you need to work with a DDD project is significantly more than being able to look in and see quite simply inside one class these methods and these POCOs here. Having to learn all the events that go around different objects and when those events are instantiated and how they're modified, because it isn't in one place. It's scattered across 3 different projects, is extremely difficult for somebody new to learn. Advanced folks love it. I will not use DDD again on stream. It is extremely complex for new folks to a project to be able to join. It's great for managing long-term projects that are very large enterprise grade. That's not what we're building. It's too much architecture for what we're trying to accomplish. Is there still interest in bringing in fluent validation per previous discussion? That I do appreciate, and we'll look at that here in just a minute, because I think there was a fluent assertion here. So, and look, there's nothing wrong with DDD. For what we're trying to accomplish here on stream, where folks tune in for 2 hours, I can't spend a half hour explaining DDD to get folks started, right? It's very intimidating for folks to look at a project and try and find their way around. That's all. All right, I'm going to move on. So, this is fine. Looks good. This is the kind of thing that we should be able to localize at some point in the future. And actually, I mean, a bit of this, you're doing this with validation methods here. You can, where'd it go? You can put these in as attributes, and they'll apply as well here. So that's fine. I'm going to accept these changes. I want to squash and merge. Thank you very much for the contribution. All right. So if C# is high school English, DDD is college grade Latin. Yes, it is much more complex, and it takes a lot to explain, and it's not something that everybody is familiar with. And when we're just trying to get folks to learn C#, and for beginner to intermediate content, it's a little bit too far across the span, and we lost people very quickly as CoreWiki developed. All right, add support for fluent assertions. So Simon's got a bunch here to add support. Let's see what we got. Be nice if the files were ordered here, like we had the CS project first, you know, where it shows, all right, here, look, we actually added the package, and it's the last one, of course, including fluent assertions. So fluent assertions is a way for you to restructure the way that you're writing tests, so it becomes a little bit clearer what the sense is. Similar discussion about the three main JavaScript-based web user interface frameworks and why the streamer was using Vue, and the simple answer being accessibility to contributions. Yes. Yes. It makes sense to you to use DDD. The domain is really clear as well. It is difficult. You need to then teach people a DDD framework, and you need to teach people about event management, and you need to teach people about all these things before you even get to entity framework, ASP.NET. You need to teach people how to use the architecture first, instead of just trying to get folks in the door. Accessibility is incredibly important for this type of a show. And if the code is not accessible, if folks look at it and get confused, they're not going to stay watching. Okay. So, yeah, once again, I'm seeing the white spaces here. Hide the white space. I want that to always be turned on. GitHub. Make that, make locked on, you know? So I like the extensions on here. Results count should be 4, right? Makes it very clear instead of doing the assert syntax here, right? Results first, start date time, hour should be 15, right? So everything that's happening over here, right? The should turns this into a test, be 15, right? And that's the value that we're looking for. So it's a nice syntax. It makes it a little bit more readable as to exactly what the intention is with the assertions, and I'm okay with that. I'm very okay with that, right? So, and it's one little NuGet package that gets included in the test, and it helps. The goal of writing tests faster, simpler, and more readable is very important. Conversation, that's where I wanted to be. Very cool. Thank you. Right. Thank you very much for the contribution. Cool. Let me see here. And look, there's plenty of great places where DDD makes sense. Like I said, for what I'm trying to accomplish, for what this stream is trying to accomplish, and for a larger system, it makes great sense. It's not something that I can have people tune in every day and be sure that everybody's going to watch and keep up with. There's a lot of tribal knowledge. There's a lot of documentation following that needs to happen to make that work. So, thank you. Yeah, there's some really great samples out here that do it. So I'm just going to close it. So we've had a discussion around it, and I hope you appreciate my point of view on it. So no argument, no hard feelings about it whatsoever. It's just we need to make sure that we make things available for folks. What G Fuel avatar? Oh, the one, whatever. Let's see here. I like structures around functions, capabilities to make them easier to implement and not litter the whole project with bits and pieces. Yeah, I can agree with that, Stelzy. Discussion around DDDs. It says Simon doesn't just apply to streaming or open source. How easy are frameworks and components in architecture to use is an important consideration when set against the experience level. Yes. When you have a larger system, a more complex system, DDD is great for it because you can have folks be able to focus on just the user interface pieces or just individual business logic components, and they don't have to think about how they update all the systems around it because you get this great capability to publish events, notify other systems. This thing happened, and all those other things can trickle down and listen and do appropriately. It's amazing. It is a great framework. If your folks don't understand how they plug into the architecture, they'll get confused quickly. It's important to make sure, like they're saying here in the chat, that you target and you manage expectations for your team appropriately. Yeah. So, Binary Ship says, I have the same problem. I tend to make overly complex demos because I'm afraid of leaving something out. Yes. This is a little bit of Yagni as well. You aren't going to need it. So, nothing against the framework. It's great in some places, and we have a sample project that uses it and uses it quite nicely. We'll go back to that at some point, but for right now, I have this project that I want to get done. So we did add support for fluent assertions, and there it is. It's merged. Yep. So I'm going to close that. Because it's done, it's merged. Some clarification in README-MD to help new contributors. To note in the README which brand to use when contributing. Maybe worth adding a paragraph on how to set up the environment to get from clone to the app running and debug. Yeah, this is a very good point we need to make sure we plug into. Async await by default, yes. How do we plan for collaboration in a growing code base? What to add early on? Some code analyzers, security code scan analyzers to help spot security. Editor config needs to be reviewed. Yeah, okay. Let's make sure we come back to these three. I think these are very, very good things here. An async await by default. Yeah. We should definitely consider that. Let me come back to those. I want to do this last pull request, and I want to get the user interface painting here. So we'll get that built, and before we finish MVP here, we'll come back and really address those three issues. Last one here, last pull request is from Marble Kirby, and this is about date time extensions for issue number 30. Issue number 30 says... That's not issue number 30. Datetime extensions, XML comments and renames, extension methods for comparing date and time, add authorization for pages. So we've actually got, it looks like two features being built here at the same time. 2 and 1. Okay. No white space. Thank you. So we have a datetime extensions extension class coming into resource management scheduling. Wondering if that's the right place to put it. Let's take a look. Is on, so we pass in a date time and another date that we're comparing to, and we're just checking to see if the dates are the same. Yeah. Right, and these are comparisons to make sure is after, is before, so that we don't have these operators floating around. Makes it a little bit clearer our intention. Is on or after? Nice. right? So is on this date. The two vertical pipes, if you're not familiar with C#, is an or statement. So we're saying if it's on this date or is after this date. And now we're just, is on or before, is on or is before. That kind of makes sense. If it's is between these dates, first date is after the second date. First date, second. Oh, if the current date is between these two. Yeah, okay. If first date is after second date, return. So this is saying flip the two dates and test it. Return value is on or after first date, and value is before the second date. Yeah, that's great. I love that. That's a nice, simple class that really declares this. Here we are on the index page. If the user is authenticated, then you'll get the availability. And right now, the manager schedule view. And you're adding authorized pages on those. Yeah, okay. You need to be authorized in order to access those. You need to be logged in, is what this says. And eventually we'll add capabilities with authorization that says you need to be a manager to access the manager content, right? So, let's see, what do we get here? Is that BGILB? How do you pronounce that? BGILB? I don't get async await. Async on await is a way for you to have a method that will run asynchronously, right? Start this while it's doing something. Maybe it's on the network. Maybe it's a long-running process. Kick that to another thread, or maybe kick that as an asynchronous call. Let it go and do that thing. We used to do that with callbacks. Go do that thing and let me know when it's done. When it's done, proceed with the rest of the method. So that's what an asynchronous call would do. Whether it would start another thread or not, you want to be able to pause, do other things appropriately. You either want to wait for that other thing to be done, or go do something else. Force it to go to a background thread, do something else, notify me when it's done, and resume processing. Yeah, it is not explicitly multi-threading. It can be multi-threading. Hey, it's Ciros, good to see you. VistaSen asks, vertical pipe is or double pipe is logical or. Actually, you can use the single pipe for bitwise. It's actually, setting up. There's two different meanings in C#. Let me merge this change, and I will show you the difference between the two real quick here. Yes, squash and merge. Thank you. Thanks for the contribution. That's great stuff. It's going to make it a lot easier to write some of this date comparison stuff. Really good stuff. Done our pull requests. Now I can pull that back down into my source code locally. And I'll be able to use these here. There they are. Fantastic. All right. Let me show you the difference between the two vertical pipes real quick. So I'll just do it over here. Public void, public class, foo. I don't care. So I can have var true value equals true, false value equals false. So if I have, actually, let's do this in a unit test class. What am I thinking? Let me show you, and we can talk through this. Open test, there we go. So check this out. Or tests. The two vertical pipes mean different things in C#. So I can say assert assert true, right? And I'm going to turn on live unit test so you can see this immediately. Okay. And hang on about the async await discussions there. Let's get to that. Hang on. And Neil Breezy, I see your question there. I'll come to that in a second. So assert true of course is right. That works. That is correct. Now if I do assert true or false, that works. That is correct as well. If I turn this around and say false or true, that's positive as well. Here's the thing. If this is when you put double pipe up here, it's the shortcut operator. It won't evaluate the second half if the first half is already true. Okay? So if I have a value here, and if I say I++ is less than 5, console write line I, right? And we look at the output of this, you'll see it's not going to show it to me because I don't have the logger wired up. It doesn't actually execute the second half of this, right? If this is false, it does execute the second half of that, and you'll get and you'll get the value written out where it'll be 1. See, now I gotta wait for this. Put. It's this one up here. Right, yeah, it's not gonna show me the output. Rats. Alright. So that's the difference. This is the OR, right? That is OR evaluate both sides. When you use the double vertical pipe, it shortcuts and says, if this is true, don't execute the second. Similarly, if you use the double AND like that, it doesn't execute the second half. If this is false, it fails and it automatically becomes false. All right? If it's true, then it will look at the second half to see if it needs to fail it. Oh yeah, I could do assert fail there. Good point. Isn't it? I can do an assert greater, right? No? Is greater? Is that? I thought there was... I greater than 0. Right? It's executing the second half. If I make this false, right, and I say this is assert false, right? It actually executed this one, and it didn't. So, all right. Let me come back. There's questions about async and await in the chat room. So Simon says the best analogy for async await is cooking breakfast one. Single thread sync code is a child cooking breakfast for the first time. They do each step one at a time. Async await is like an adult cooking breakfast for the family. Starting one thing, doing something else while waiting for the toast coffee. Multi-thread is like a hotel kitchen with a team of chefs. That's not bad. That's not bad. Cyros, why do you say it's a very bad analogy? Counter threads has nothing to do with how many of them are running concurrently. I don't think there was any okay, let's talk about this let's talk about this model here real quick. so we make sure everybody's on the same page. So now there's too much that's gone by. When a child makes breakfast, right, they're going to pour a bowl of cereal, right? They're going to take out, they're going to put a bowl down, they're going to pour the cereal into it, and then they're going to pour milk into it. Single-threaded. Async await is like when you're making toast and coffee at the same time, right? When you're doing async await, you put the bread in the toaster, you push the thing down, and now that's asynchronously running while you go over, put take the coffee out of the coffee maker and pour yourself a cup of coffee. Ding, the toast pops up. You've now been notified. Oh, that's done. Take your cup of coffee, grab your toast, put them on your plate, and you go sit down and have breakfast. Multi-threaded is different from async and await. Multi-threaded, where it is like a hotel or a restaurant kitchen, where you have one chef that's taking care of making the eggs, and someone else who's taking care of making the bacon, and somebody else who's taking care of baking the bread and toasting it and preparing it properly. That is multi-threaded because there are different processes working on each one of those things. Different. When you do async await, you are not necessarily multi-threaded. There might be another thread that picks it up. That's the beauty of using the async await keywords. The compiler and the execution engine will figure out when and appropriately and when to do it. I'm not discussing multi-process. I'm talking multi-threaded. Multi-process is completely different. I'm talking multi-thread. Multi-process, if you use the restaurant analogy, would be there's several different kitchens. Those are different processes. Different threads are each one of my cooks. That's the analogy that I'm drawing. Okay? Different. If I have different kitchens that are feeding an army, feeding a military force, those are different processes. Those are different organizations that behave and have their own threading models. Different processes that are doing those. Okay. Thank you for the host. I appreciate that. So that would be, and thank you, Huck, for the host as well. Hey, you know what? I'll take any number of viewers. That's great. How are we doing today? We're doing pretty good. Let's see here. So, right, count of threads, count of processes. Threads make up processes. Multiple processes make up a system. Okay. And that system with multiple processes can be one application. It can be many applications. Right? That application structure and system hierarchy are two different things. They're a little bit more. There's a lot more to architecture discussion there. Async await is about throughput capacity. Yes. Is it because bitwise? No. There is nothing obvious about multi-threaded or concurrent execution. I agree. It is a very complex topic. State of the memory is not obvious when you start multiprocessing with CPUs that use caches. Many things instantly go out the window. Yes, it is very complex. We are using XUnit today for my unit test framework. Simple questions like what is a queue are almost impossible to answer when you deal with multi-threaded code running concurrently. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I'm not sure I agree with that statement. Is there a reference site I have like tutorials, or is it just Twitch videos? Do I code in Python in any of them? No, I don't use Python. Primarily C#, JavaScript, of course. And you can find... Horses love JavaScript. And you can find all of my videos on YouTube. There's a complete archive there. So, the model that I'm describing is I'm not describing a person as an execution unit. I don't appreciate that comment, Zeros. We try to be family friendly here. I don't like folks taking that level. It's okay to be passionate. No, that was a 1 second. But I don't want to go quite that far, okay? Don't need to get nasty about those things. Yes, let's get back into the code. Thank you. All right. So I need to do a little bit more testing around this method. I definitely want to make sure that the day calculation works properly. But I need to get back in. I want to get this wired up to the user interface so I can get that minimum viable of it actually showing numbers on the screen. So, let's take a look at. All right, so we've got it doing the calculation. We know how to calculate. Right, we're going to use this calculate availability across all the schedules for a given time period. I'm going to go back over here to our user interface, and we should be able now in the manager schedule view. Okay. So we have a change date. Now we can start fetching our schedules and passing them in and doing that calculation right here and do the interaction. Neil says, I see that you're using the Visual Studio IDE. You do not need to purchase a full version. Community Edition is free. And it's always available. Some of the advanced features, when I was using live unit testing, that is not free. However, you can run the unit tests over here in the Test Explorer. Whenever you do a build, you can have it kick off. And I don't see it here. There's an option to configure where you can have it run the unit tests after every build. Right? You can also do that with .NET Watch tests at the command line. HB, I always upload every video to YouTube. It just takes me a little bit longer for some of them because we have to edit before we publish some of those things. So they are available here on the videos link just above as well. All right, so I need to now go get all the schedules for all the people in my organization and show it here. I can shortcut that for right now. It's not I don't want to go too crazy going and getting all the schedules, but I do need to load. And right now I have in my DB context the ability to get schedules directly. At some point I'm going to need to qualify this and say schedules for my organization. There will be a tenant that gets introduced at some point. But for right now, I should be able to just say, go get all the schedules. Yeah, and look at them, right? Because schedule has just, right, these three fields. So, I think, yeah, I think we can just say, go get all the schedules and include the other data underneath of it. But I'd like to move that outside of this so that getting the schedules, we can make that a little bit easier. We can tune it without having to change our user interface later. So let's do this. I'm I'm going to define another class over here in data and an interface to go with it. And let's just call this, the schedule repository. It's not a real repository. And I'm going to put an interface in front of it, because I have a feeling this is going to get really big at some point, and we may need to change technologies. And I don't want to change my user interface. So I want to be able to swap that back and forth. Multi-threaded development is extremely difficult on C++. In .NET, it's a bit easier. It's not simple, it's easier. All right, so I'm gonna return an IEnumerable of schedules, and I'm just gonna call this get schedules. And at some point, I'll pass in a start date and an end date. Right? I mean, now you know what? Let's do that. Start date. End date. Okay. And I need to know what this is. Thank you. So this I will make in iSchedule repository. And this is an extremely simple one to start. We'll make it more complex later. But I'm going to lay the groundwork so that we can make it more complex later. I'm going to register this type up here. Services add, let's make this scoped iSchedule repository. Come on now. Schedule repository. Okay. Cool. All right. This we're going to need to receive our data context. Right, which is application DB context. Stash a copy of that. Okay. So for now, I'm just going to say return db dot. What? Oh, it should be my DB context. Rats. There we go. I'm just going to do that. Sure, you can send a whisper. You can always send a whisper. Whispers are always open. Yeah, you don't need live unit testing. It's a really nice feature for productivity. And there is third-party stuff that does the same thing. A lot of folks like to use Rider. Absolutely. Excuse me. Is Rider like PyCharm for .NET? Yes. It's actually a little bit the other way. The PyCharm is like Rider for Python. Rider came out of the developments from ReSharper, and wanting to hook that up to their own IDE. Yes, it comes with ReSharper. It developed out of ReSharper, and PyCharm is built off of that same concept. One sec here. Okay. All right. Visual Studio is the Cadillac. It's been around for 20 plus years, and it continues to grow. It gets better with every edition, and it's nice that there's folks now that are pushing it, that are competing with it and forcing the team to stay on their toes, build new features that are compelling for everybody. So I've got a simple, we'll make this better performance and better later. For right now, to get to minimum viable, just return all of the schedules that are in the database. Like I said, minimum viable for right now to get this running, Yagni. I'm not going to need more than that to paint this. So what I can do now is I can inject schedule repository. I don't want all that nonsense. Give me a nice using statement. Yes, at using Fritz resource management web. Was it under models or data? Data. There we go. So that, and I will call this schedule repository. So now down here, I can have an IEnumerable of schedules. Come on. Really? Schedules. And I can say schedules equals schedule repository. Get schedules. Oh my goodness, lots of questions coming in through here. PyCharm is the only visual debugger worth anything in the Python industry. Have you seen the Python debugger that comes with Visual Studio Code? It's not bad. VS Code with all the extensions for TDD and console tools can give you a great test experience. I completely agree, Simon. Zero says ReSharper's nice, but if I recall, they haven't yet moved past C# 5 or 6. No, I thought they were supporting at least the 7s. I thought they were. I'd have to look that up. You might be right. I haven't used ReSharper in a while. You wish Visual Studio Code supported Xamarin. I suppose you could write an extension for it. Keep an eye out. That problem may go away as we get to .NET 5. IL4Y says, is it worth switching to Rider, or should you stay with the familiar Visual Studio IDE? To each their own. I can't answer that for you. You're going to have to try it, and if it feels right to you, great. It may be the right thing for you. Not sure if that would be enough to develop Xamarin on Linux. No, you're not going to be able to use... You could use Xamarin on Linux to develop for Android, but certainly not for iOS. That's always going to be an Apple-only thing because of their constraints. Zero says, appreciate how much the Visual Studio Code team focuses on keeping it performant and quick to start up. Yeah, performance is a prime feature there. If a comp sci student checks to see if your university or college has access to Azure Education, you may be able to get Enterprise under academic license. Yes. You can't get Enterprise and you're a student, says Daniel. Oh, that's still, you can get the Community Edition and you'll be in great shape. An EDU email address does get you a free license to the JetBrains products. Yes. There are academic licenses for Telerik, Infragistics, and SpecFlow. I didn't know that those folks had them as well. Great. Another .NET IDE that hasn't been updated for some time. Yeah. So. Cool. All right, moving on. This does not understand the schedule object, which is in the domain. So we need to, you know what? We can fix this with some of what we learned yesterday. Friday, we can add an import statement in here so that it imports, right? so that some of these using statements get imported for us. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to add a razor component, and we'll call this imports. And I'll move some of these using statements in here that we should be using on a regular basis, like this one about the data, right? Let's get that. Paste it over here. And some of those using statements should go away. Our schedule is sitting in our domain object, Fritz Resource Management Domain. Let's make sure that that's available at using Fritz Resource Management Domain. So now, there it goes. That gets lit up properly. We need to pass in the start date and end date of this. Well, the start date and end date are here. I don't like them being executed here. These, I feel like, let's not execute those in line. Let's execute those right at top of our initialization statement. And then I can pass in these as the start date and end date. Even though I'm not actually using them, I'm set up to succeed. Right? Why don't you like that? What's this here? Can I convert from method group to date time? Oops, forgot a comma. Daniel asks, anyone using Vim? You know what? I'm a big fan of Vim. I've used that a number of times. Nope, don't add days. I don't know. There we go. Okay. Yeah, we're good. Thank you for the follow, Newzolks. Appreciate it. OmniSharp does have a Vim plugin, yes. So, all right. So now I have the schedules being returned, and this should behave properly when that selected date. You know what? We should probably go get the schedules again when change date happens. Right? That makes sense. Go reload for the next set of schedules. So we go fetch those and we'll be able to paint them on the screen. So when we have the schedules now inside of our grid, so there, right, here's the day view with that information. Now we need to paint the schedule across it. And this is where I think some of what we learned about templates and passing in, yeah, if we change our template, if we have templates for each element of the grid that we're displaying, we should be able to do that appropriately. These are okay. We're fine there. Can I touch on some of the open issues before the stream finishes? Sure. I think that's fine. We can go back and review those and key in some new issues and make sure that we have a list of here's where we need to pick up and resume next time. Because I'm going to be recruiting folks. I want to recruit folks. I want people to be able to jump in and help out. Yeah, we want to get on and be productive, right? We want to recruit folks. Well, folks like...
I want rustlers, cutthroats, murderers, bounty hunters, desperados, mugs, pugs, thugs, nitwits, halfwits, dimwits, vipers, snipers, conmen, agents, bandits, muggers, buggerers, bushwhackers, hornswagglers, horse thieves, train robbers, bank robbers, diggers, and Methodists.
And Methodists? We're going to invite all those people to join us. And, and developers, yes. So, a lot of folks that I want to be able to jump in and help out. So, there you go. Vladimir's a mugger. He can help out. That was from Blazing Saddles with a little bit of edit because I want to make sure that it's still family friendly, and we had to put a couple bleeps in there, and I even silenced a couple of the groups that Headley Lamar was referencing. So this should work. Let me show you what this looks like so that you know what it is that we're going to be finishing here. I did a Control F5. Are you building? Thank you. That'll soon be a voiceover. I don't know. Maybe I'll do that myself, right? So look at that. There's the one thing that Daniel gave us, right? That it doesn't give you the links, and we should put the links up top here. But I'm going to turn this into client-side Blazor at some point. So now when I log in, now I get the ability to see. And I can click into, this is our manager view that we're building, and we can clean this up. We can make this look better. Fritzbot should get a voice. Our friend Coderdojo, Mark Miller, has a voice for his. Did you miss the PHP stream? No, we're not doing a PHP stream. No. But I can navigate back and forth here. And actually, okay, so those aren't... Something happened and they're not working. But we'll turn these into real buttons here so you can click them and do something. We'll improve the user interface here at some point. But that should call the change date with the on click here. Did I get bumped to Blazor 6? Preview 6? Did I get bumped up? I may have gotten... No, that's preview 5. I mean, it's clearly clicking and trying to do something. Let me just double check here. Right? If I put a breakpoint here... Oh, I don't have the debugger attached. Let's attach the debugger. Referring to the GitHub issues and earlier debate notwithstanding, do we want to transition the I repository to async to keep it synchronous? Oh, good point, Simon. Oh, snap. You're right. Good catch. Yes. We should make that behave in async. Let me click into this and see. Right when I click that, selected date equals selected date, add days to change. What? Yeah, fine. Selected date is the 21st, and we're going to add 7, right? So now selected date is 28th. Oh, you know what? I need to recalculate these because they're wrong. These need to be recalculated when that changes. Now, another thing that I think we should consider with these more complex user interfaces, especially this one is going to get more complex. Maybe we should take these functions and kick them into a model, a view model object, component model that lives behind it so that we can test that as well. Simon's right, though. We should turn that, before I get too much further here, I'm going to turn that interface and object. There we go. Oh, look. It's going back. Well, that's a bug. That's ugly. You know what? Maybe because it sets the select date. Take care. Have a good one there, Saros. The reasoning behind my point is the original issue being it's easier to manage when there's less sync to async transitions. Amen there. Let me take care of this real quick. Make this get schedules async and make this return a task. Like that. Yes, I need a using statement for that. And I'll F12. I will shift F12 so I can get... not that one. Not that one. This one. I'll turn this into async task. And I'll do this toList async. Now, I'm returning that. What do you mean? There's a toList async. There we go. Now, can I implicitly convert? Ugh. Because it's returning an IEnumerable of it. Ooh. Ecomath has a good question there. Give me 1 second here. Return. Oh, wait. Oh, nah, I don't want to do it here. I want to return that, which means this isn't an IEnumerable. If I just return. And I don't want to do a select here yet. And I want it to be returned as queryable. It is enumerable, right? No, I think if I just return DB schedules, it's going to say, well, this isn't async. So I can actually remove that so that we await it later. Right? Yeah. And I can't do toList async because it's an IEnumerable in there and it doesn't like that convert. Right, now I'm up against, some of this weirdness here with that conversion back and forth. I want it to be an IEnumerable so that it can just, I can't even do toArray async because that's an array, and that's not, the task doesn't convert properly. You need to be the exact type inside that. And I can't just do return... that schedule's there. That's weird. You know? Now, if I put async in front... If I put async here... I can return this, but it's not actually... I'm not actually awaiting anything in it. So it's going to run synchronously, and actually, this should be get schedules async. So it matches the name and I finish implementing the interface. Actually, that's fine because it's going to return that IEnumerable and we can await it later when we go and actually go through the things. So, yeah, the caller is going to be doing the awaiting. A task of iCollection schedule. Even if it's iCollection, that won't work. So that won't return either. But IEnumerable will. So, yeah, the caller is going to do the awaiting and managing. There was a question earlier from, is that Haru Gawada? Is Blazor any better? Remember checking it like 6 months ago and it wasn't so pleasant to work with. It's getting much better. The workshop that we did on Friday, it was terrific. If I do select async, well, select async, it's actually, the select is never async. Select is casting from one type to another. That's fine the way that it is, because this is just saying, oh, you're not awaiting actually in here. If I get rid of this, it doesn't like that either. So let me leave it like that, because now when I'm over here, 1 second. So that works, and now I can come back over here and get schedules async. And I can await this. Make that. Oh. And now that works. And just call base init async. Cool. All right. Yep. Well, eventually when we put the where statements in there, right, when here, right, eventually we'll do a where in here, and this will get really ugly. Right, that we want to return as a task. Do whatever other things you want to do, and when it's time to actually execute it, await and ripple down and function appropriately. But for right now, that's kind of so. I think that's where I want it to be. And we'll talk about the issues that are out there, and we can go through this. So all your base are await by us, says Stormfist. A little bit. That's good. I see what you did there. That's not bad. Yeah. All right. So the manager schedule view, and yeah, that's not working. Really? I would really prefer, right, the way that we had it before was up here like this. That feels weird to have it up there. I know where I want to have it. I remember from yesterday we did the on parameter set is what I want to be able to. I want that set on. Never using configure await. That's correct. You should never use configure await in .NET Core. Oh my gosh, Tim Bodette is rating the stream. Oh, Tim, thank you so much. Oh my goodness, 60 folks coming over here. Welcome, Raiders. Wow. Thank you, Wizzy17. Thank you for the follow. Here they come. Yes, you can defend if you'd like. Absolutely. I'm working on a defend video. Don't attack. No. Hey, Tim, thanks so much for the raid. Wow. Welcome, Raiders. My name is Jeff Fritz. We're writing a little bit of C# code here today. We're working with ASP.NET, and we're building a scheduling user interface here for a nonprofit organization, so that folks can manage their schedules, and managers can look and see when folks are available to work at their place. No friends, enemies things. What is that? What is that? No. Oh my goodness. I tell you. Listen.
You got the wrong guy. I'm the dude, man.
I'm the dude. See? Okay. We don't need to get crazy about that. It's a wonderful thing here, okay?
Now we know.
And now you know.
Knowing is half the battle.
Yeah. Welcome, Raiders. Thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate that. Why not use configure await? Doesn't it still let another thread pick up after await and thereby release the thread that started it? .NET Core is built so that async is a very first-class citizen. and you won't need configure await. Everything is asynchronous from the get-go, particularly with ASP.NET Core. You won't run into some of those things where you're going to kind of force the behavior of, and you need to do configure await. That's not a concern here with this framework. They recommend strongly against it. So, all right. I'm going to change this to on parameter set. Async. So that we're handling, right? Right? That's the one I'm using. Am I updating the selected date anywhere? Yes. What do you mean it's override on parameters set async. Oh, I forgot the S. Fine. There we go. That's better. Now we can try this. Yeah, I update the selected date. Yeah. I need to... Now I can move these back because I update the selected date here with the change date. Right? This goes away. Override async task. That works now properly. There it goes. So right here, I changed the parameter right there. So when that parameter changes, the parameter's been set, reevaluate, repaint. MS Docs suggest using task list my data, get data async, and use toList async on the query. It seems a little bad, but that's what it says. Yeah, okay, to get rid of the enum. What time does the stream end? It usually ends about 12 o'clock here. I'm running just a little bit over. So, click over here, and this should work. No, it's not working. Why isn't it working? Are you kidding? I'm setting this, and that should be triggering. Right? Selected date. There. Equals selected date. See, wait a sec. We just set selected date and it didn't change it. That doesn't make sense to me. Right? If I click this, right? Selected date we're going to set to the 28th. Right, there it is. Selected date is now the 28th. F5 and selected date is now the 21st. It's still today, even though we set that. That's strange. So, yeah, I've been guilted into staying now that everybody turned up. You're right. You're right. I have a feeling I need to put that selected date into my schedule state. And actually, don't I already have in my schedule state? Don't I already have? Yeah, I have selected date there. So let's change this instead of a straight get set here. Right? So we'll let's get rid of that. Let's make this equals, oh, you turkey. Default to date time today. And over here, this selected date, break this out. Return my schedule state selected date. And when we set it, my schedule state selected date equals the value. That way the selected date that's used here on screen is persisted and it should come back appropriately to me. Another 7 hours? No. I'm not going to go that long. What? Oh, because it's a private set. We need to set selected date. That's fine. Select date, and we'll pass in the value like that. Why don't you like that? Here we go. Does the selected date need to be nullable? No. We should always have a selected date. I need to know what the date is. So, let's see here. Let's see. Go ahead and get it running. And there we go. Manager schedule view. Defaults to today. Resetting it, so this should now be the 28th. I'm setting the parameter value. Why aren't you rerunning this deal here? There, okay. Selected date still says 21st. I need to figure out why that navigation isn't working. I'm going to take that as an issue because I am at the end of my time here together. So let's wrap things up and talk about the issues that are out there that we need to address. I'm going to git add everything, git commit ready to update the UI. Now let's not completed grain calculations for manager view. Okay. Yeah, you're broken. Goodbye. So over here, let's talk about, let's put a new issue here. Manager view date navigation doesn't go anywhere. That's a bug. Sure. If somebody wants to take a look at that, it can be looked at. Yep, I didn't define a project today. So that, I need to assign that to the current project. Schedule availability. That needs to be done. And if I look at the schedule availability, this is the project that we're currently working on. So we're working on the manager view. This needs to be done. We need security, a security claim here called a manager that we enforce in order for you to get into the manager view. Shouldn't crash when accessing a page that requires a logged in user. That we just fixed because we now have that requirement. That was what was merged by one of our pull requests earlier today. Items in day view stack on top of each other when times that we need to address yet. Further to the recent changes, adding authentication, some consideration for security threat model. We need to look at that as well. Daniel's asking to take a look at the manager claim and view here. Sure, we'll add you to that. And it should automatically move to in progress once you start working on it. This one needs to be addressed. We need to be able to assign some user roles. We're going to need a user interface so that folks can assign users to roles. Absolutely. Cole Alt Delete, welcome. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate you joining us. So I think once we get, right, the manager view here has a bunch of different things that we should be able to do, right? Let me add a to-do item here. I don't want to add a note. I want to add a new issue. Not add a column. Yeah, I can't create issues and assign them from here. I need to go back over to issues and create them and assign them. So manager view. We need to paint. We need to output availability into each cell of the grid. For our, and actually we need to also be able to define shoot, I need to assign that to the, see, I need to put that on the project there. For the manager view, we need to be able to set a zoom level. Managers should be able to choose between half hour, hour, or day view of the week, and C, the view should update and show appropriately, and show the availability of those folks, of staff at that Zoom level. So that is an enhancement. Sure, I'll mark it with help wanted, and that's on the schedule availability. So that'll give us the ability to zoom back and forth. We need to be able to assign users to roles. That's an enhancement, and we will make that part of schedule availability because that's part of this MVP. I think that's all for now. Do we have the roles? Employee, volunteer, manager. Ooh, let me go back. Roles should be... yeah, let's make them very simple. Employee, volunteer, manager, administrator. Right, an employee is just somebody who works at the place, and we want to know they're an actual employee. They get paid. A volunteer is somebody who doesn't get paid, but it constrains the amount of things that they're able to do. You know what? I don't need volunteer. That's a person type. Manager, though, is a role. They're allowed access to certain things. An administrator is able to see and do everything. Administrator and manager, the line between those two is very thin right now. I have a feeling it's going to get bigger later. You can create a new task on the to-do board and click the ellipsis, then convert to issue. You can. Well then. All right. Cool. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. They are issues. Yes, I created them as issues. So, very good. Thank you everybody for joining me. This has been I think we got a lot done here today. Let's see who is out there streaming that we can raid as we wrap up here. You know what? Yeah, let's raid our friend Node Botanist. They're working on Moddable and some drivers over there. So let's set up the raid. There's our raid call. If you're a subscriber, grab that first line of text with the bots. If you're not a subscriber, that's okay. Grab the second line of text, copy it, put it on your clipboard, get ready to copy and paste it into our friend, the Node Botanist, into their stream when we get over there. So here comes the raid. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. I really appreciate it. This video, like all my other videos, will be available on YouTube. I've got a little bit of editing for some of the ones from the past week that I'm finishing up, and we'll get that out there. But I hope you tune in. You join me on Tuesday. Tuesday, I'll be streaming at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, 2200 UTC, and I believe it's 9 a.m. Sydney time. And our workshop from last week, the ASP.NET Core workshop, is now available on YouTube. The Blazor workshop from Friday will be available in the next day or two. Just takes me a little bit of time to render all that great video. Thanks so much, everybody. It's been great to have you here today, and I will see you next time. Get ready to go say hello to the Node botanist, and we'll see you then. All right? Take care.